Your diet isn't on point will literally end your life. You want to fuel like a warrior, not a consumer. And the goal here isn't to just calories in, calories out, or protein grams and measuring this little autistic shit that everyone else likes to do. What is the point of diet? What, like, or food? Let's just say food. What's the point of diet and food? It's literally for sustenance. It's not about taste, right? Like everyone else will convince you that it's about taste. No, we've made it like not we. Like it's really like food companies have made it like, oh, it has to taste like this cotton candy and like this, you know, watermelon barf. You know what I mean? Unicorn barf. And it's just like that's not what it actually is. The whole point is sustenance, nutrition, right? Nutrition value, right? And for MMA specifically, it's really about nourishing our performance, accelerating our recovery, and literally making the body and mind better for what we eat. Every bite should serve a function. It's literally to fuel our training, to repair our muscles and our tissues, ligaments, enhance cognitiveness, sharpen our reflexes, build resilient organs and joints, and just, a body that's durable. And you obviously have to consider things in the diet. It's going to be hard for me to give everyone because even though it's MMA, yes, everyone might have a slightly different goal. Maybe you have to consider what your goal is with your diet, right? But this is what I'll say: keep it healthy, right? But you can tailor it, right? What is your goal? Is it to gain muscle mass? Maybe you're a little bit low for your weight class. Now, obviously, this doesn't mean balloon up like an idiot and having to cut a massive amounts of weight. Right? Just enough muscle mass to where actually it matters and you're stronger. Is it to gain weight? Or, I mean, maintain the weight? Or maybe you're at least at the ideal weight that you want. Maybe it's to be a little bit leaner so that you can be at a lower weight class. Is it to lose weight? Right? Is it maybe just to become more athletic? Maybe it's some specific thing, right? To be more explosive, maybe, right? And this is where I want you to be super clear with the goal that you have. What is the goal? Be clear with yourself, right? Make that in your mind. Oh, I actually want to, for sake of argument, right, or for sake of example, let's say you weigh 170, right, and you want to gain this a little bit of muscle mass, right? Right. So let's just say you want to gain them to like 185 to make it easy. Okay, that's like 15 pounds. Cater your diet toward that goal. Or if you're 170 and you want to go lower to 155, then cater your goal to that. That's my point. And this is what I'm gonna make very clear, especially like if you are already not a subhuman, right? And you've kind of evolved and you've done some research on diet. All the things that you want to not do is stop only looking at, you know, fucking calories in, calories out. I want you to look at the ingredients. Look at the ingredients of what you're eating. Stop eating processed food, processed junk food. There's so many like fake healthy foods that you think that are healthy that they're deceiving you into thinking that it's healthy, but it's actually not. And obviously, stop overcomplicating the diet. Keep it simple, bro. Keep it simple. All the things you need to do and you start doing. Of course, I'm going to go into detail with this video. Eat the same thing every day, for the most part. Like at least days you're training. Right. So some of you probably are training 5 times a week, 4 times a week. Right. If you're serious about this, it's probably what you're training. Right. Maybe more. Right. Hopefully it's not super intense. Right. Point is though, eat the same thing every day and stop being gay, especially if you don't have the financial means to eat, you know, a shitload of different foods every day, right? Like you cannot, like I swear, when I tell people this and they look at me, it's like, you get that fluoride stare from them. What do you mean eat the same thing every day? Literally, for most of human history, people have always ate the same thing every day. or most of human history, people have always ate the same thing. You're telling me you don't have more discipline than a peasant from the medieval era, from the ancient era, and you claim that you want to be this absolute badass fighter. You don't have that discipline to actually keep with it. And like, look, I'll keep speak from personal experience. I'm not just saying this because I want you to do it. For the most part, people like, you know, I like to research different like things. Sure. And people might think that because of how I post on Instagram or whatever, they think I'm eating something different every day. For the most part, man, I'm actually eating the same thing every day. Especially for a first meal of the day. I eat pretty much the same thing. And for the second meal, for the most part, I eat the same exact thing every day. Now, at least 5 days a week, so the weekdays, which is probably when you're training, eat the same thing. You can change it up a little bit on the weekends, right? I'll give you that leeway. But I actually eat the same meal every day. Like the first meal, right? If you want to know what I eat, it's basically eggs with sourdough bread, some fruits, right? That's pretty much what I eat. That's pretty much what I eat. Right? Now again, it can change from different person to person. That's most of what I eat. All right. You need to quit eating crap, like immediately, first of all. None of this gay ass like coping shit. It's okay to indulge once in a while, because again, it's the biggest psyop in the world that, the average normie and the subhuman has fallen into, thinking that, oh, it's okay to eat junk food once in a while. But if I said it's okay to do cocaine once in a while, you would look at me like crazy. So, and this food is actually just as bad as that, because again, when I see the 300 pound person, I think, man, that guy's like a food addict, if you really think about it. Like, we look at crackheads on the street and we think, oh, like, like we just think of them as abnormal. But I look at fat people and I think of them as abnormal, right? Like, how could you willingly do this to yourself? Right? So stop with this shit. I've seen, like, average people stick to their diet. So you're telling me you want to be this amazing MMA fighter and you can't stick to it? Like, come on now. Now, before we do go into what specifically we should be eating, I'm going to go more into detail before that as well. What you should be cooking in and what you should not be cooking in, right? So first and foremost, never cook in Teflon pans and pans that have forever chemicals in them. I mean, this shit is just terrible, and I don't even know how it's legal for these companies to sell pans that have this shit. Right, and unfortunately, a lot of pans, like a lot of your regular frying pans, have this. Unfortunately, so really be careful. If you have this shit, throw that shit out, or donate it. Right, you can donate it if you want. Point is that you shouldn't be eating in it. If you want to elevate yourself, you should get rid of that shit immediately. Right. What's actually crazy about Teflon pans is that, historically speaking, like this material was actually used to make automotive parts, tools, and light bulbs. This coating that was actually used in uranium, and a chemical used in the first atomic bomb. That's literally what you're cooking your food in. Think about how toxic that fucking is. And like when you actually eat in these pans, basically, you're actually more likely to have cancer. And these forever chemicals actually have been associated with thyroid dysfunction and, of course, decreased infertility. Or, I mean, increase in infertility, right? High blood pressure, especially if you're pregnant, right? Which doesn't apply to us, right? But especially if you're pregnant, man, it will fuck up how your child is going to be, right? It even leads to liver damage. So if someone hits you in the liver, man, oh, like, yeah, you're absolutely fucked. And these can actually interfere with the body's endocrine system, which obviously regulates a lot of your hormones, right? It'll basically mess up your hormones, and especially if you were exposed to this during like childhood, it can actually lead to developmental delays and other health issues. It's been actually associated with leading people to Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease, so it basically fucks up your brain. And that's one of my honest theories about Muhammad Ali. He didn't get Parkinson's from, getting punched in the head. I guarantee you, he probably, was probably you using Teflon pans. That's one of my theories out there. Right? Just avoid synthetic materials in general. Another thing that you should be avoiding is aluminum cookware, because the aluminum cookware can leach into your food, right? Right. Excessive aluminum exposure can actually is actually linked to neurological issues. So it can mess up your brain, mess up a lot of health issues, and even kidney issues, right? And for the love of God, you know, do not use plastic, all right? Whether it's plastic like the coffee maker or the you know, plastic kettle or whatever, like especially if you're boiling it, even if it's not boiled, don't pack your food in plastic either. Because the thing is, with plastic, it breaks down over time, especially when it's exposed to heat. It releases these tiny plastic particles called microplastics into the food, right? And you're basically eating these microplastics, which are basically made out of petroleum, which is again, so. And there's studies on this that's linked microplastics to various health problems like endocrine disruptors, neurological damage, and increased cancer risk. And what's crazy about this is that everyone has microplastics in their body. Microplastics have been found in every human's body and even to the point in their testicles, which is just crazy. It's and sometimes like it's weird. Sometimes these plastics actually have something called flame retardant, not retardant, and heavy metals that can leach into it, so it makes it even worse. These chemicals again can cause so many issues, just so many issues, right? And don't use cheap coated pans, which often use like synthetic glues, or like it has lead-based coating or something like that. Right? If you want to detox from these, because maybe you've used these in the past, I highly, highly recommend join the program, join the Patreon. I have a section on how to detox. Right? You can pre-order the BioHacking for MMA and join the program. I highly recommend it if you really want to detox yourself from these chemicals that maybe you've used in the past. You can reverse it. It is actually possible, right? Now, we're gonna go over what you should be cooking in, right? Right. What you should be cooking your food in, right? There's something, again, I'm gonna mention a lot of this stuff, but you don't have to cook it in everything that I mentioned. Just pick one or two, right? Keep it simple, right? But one thing that's probably arguably the best one, right? There's many benefits to them, but clay pans or pots. Like, you've seen like the traditional like pots that like maybe these villages people like they use. That's basically what you should be cooking a lot of your food in. Some there's studies that show actually that clay pots. What's actually interesting is that these leach beneficial minerals into the food. So like iron, magnesium, calcium into the food. And these clay pots are naturally non-stick. And they basically, because you're cooking in them, it actually requires less oil and fat for cooking. So you don't even have to put a whole lot. Because, yeah, sometimes when you put pans, like you cook in regular stuff, it feels like you have to put a lot of like butter or ghee or like whatever tallow, animal fat, just to cook eggs. That's clearly not the case with this. Right, and the interesting thing is that the alkaline nature of these clay like pots and pans can actually neutralize the acidity of certain foods, which obviously can be beneficial, especially for people who have like digestive issues. Clay pots also prevents food from burning or sticking, right? So it further promotes healthier cooking. It's so much better. Another thing you can cook it with is a cast iron. Now, cast iron is actually really amazing, and I've cooked with cast iron. So it's actually interesting that it adds 16% more iron content into the food of whatever you're eating, right? Especially if you have a lot of iron deficiency, this is great for you, right? When you do have to season cast iron pan, and this is I believe you have to do the same with clay pots, right? You have to do the same with clay pots. And again, cast iron is naturally a non-stick surface, especially when you season it properly, and it requires less oil for the cooking. Right, cooking in cast iron can increase, and it's especially beneficial for people with iron deficiencies. Now, another one, this is what I use personally a lot more, right? Because it's just a lot more simple, and it's not a pain to clean sometimes. Is that stainless steel, right? Now, obviously, you want to make sure it's a food grade version, so like 304 or 316. That's just the food grade. It's the most versatile option. You can cook almost anything in these stainless steel. Right, stainless steel is amazing because again, it's known for its strength and resistance. Right, it has a non-porous surface, and basically makes it less prone that bacteria will build up, ensuring something is going to be cooked more hygienically. Right, you can also cook with glass. Right, so or you can carry your food in glass, like just glass containers. There's also stainless steel containers. I've seen that as well. Right, glass is generally smooth and non-porous. So, and you can get glass like cookware. That is actually possible. Like borosilicate glass cookware is really good, making it easy to clean and again less likely to have bacteria in it. Like glass for the most part retains its heat well, so it helps you cook food like really well, and it'll keep the food warm even after cooking it. So it's to keep the food warm even after cooking it. And the transparency of the glass actually it's just a convenience. Like you can see the food being cooked as you're cooking it, right? Without actually having to lift up the lid and see, oh, is it done yet? No, you don't have to do any of that. So it prevents overcooking and burning. Another thing you can do is copper. Copper you can cook with copper. Amazing, amazing, especially if you have a copper deficiency. Just make sure it's aligned with tin or like stainless steel, right? The responsiveness of this material copper is actually very beneficial, and especially when you're trying to make sauces or any dish, really, right? Especially if you want like a precise temperature adjustment. Some studies have actually shown that when you cook with copper cookware, obviously it increases copper intake, which is very essential because a lot of people are copper deficient. And copper naturally has antimicrobial properties. So again, it's gonna not have bacteria in it. Another thing you can cook with, carbon steel. Similar to cast iron, but it's lighter and has faster heating. It's naturally non-stick if you season it, right? It's great for high heat cooking. So if you want to cook something that requires a lot of heat, right? Then this is perfect for that. I just grab some water real quick. And I just need to do that because whenever I record, yeah, I need water. Yeah, but another thing you can cook with stoneware. This is like an unglazed or natural glaze, right? That's what the type of stoneware you want. So it's a natural slow cooking, right? That's like how clay has, right? Slow cooking just basically means that it takes a longer time, right? So you can use this when you have more time to cook your food, right? It's also really good because it distributes the heat properly, so your food isn't like one side is better cooked than the other, right? It's really great for even baking too, and it lasts for like a really long time. It can last decades with proper care, right? You can also use soapstone cookware, right? It has a high heat retention. It retains flavor within the food. It add minerals like calcium and magnesium into it, which again a lot of people are deficient in. It's non-reactive and it's naturally non-stick. You can also use bronze, Kansa bronze, or or brass, like tall brass, which is like again this is like traditional like Indian for Kansa, which is like a tin bronze alloy, right? It's naturally antimicrobial. It balances the pH. So if you have like a messed up pH, you definitely use this for that. It enhances taste of traditional foods. So if you make healthy traditional foods, then you can use this bronze, right? And in general, there's so many materials I can mention. The point is, you should be using organic material. Personally, what I use and what I'd recommend because it's just easier is stainless steel and cast iron. Right? Yeah, pretty much that's what I would recommend. Cast iron, stainless steel, and if you want, you can do the same. I do have a clay pot. Right now, yeah, this next question is going to be: so we know what we should be cooking our food in, right? I, well, we should be going over what y- what types of food you should be eating, right? And to keep it very simple, anything that hasn't really existed in the last 100 years, so things like seed oils and processed foods and junk food, all this toxic shit, basically don't eat shit like that, right? And I cannot stress this enough, man. The more simple you keep your diet, the easier it'll be to follow. Stop like overcomplicating it. Make it simple, and you'll do good. Make it simple, and you'll do good. I can't stress that enough. Like so many people want to like eat like something different every week. It's like, and then they just quit on their diet because it's just so hard. Just make the same thing, like just eat the same thing every day. Okay, like make sure it's obviously healthy, right? Just for the most part, eat the same thing, man. Like on the weekends, you can change it up, fine, right? But if we're like, unless you have a chef, right? Which you probably don't, right? Eat the same thing every day, and it's just easier, bro. It's just so much easier. Like I eat the same thing, even though I could eat like a bunch of stuff. I just eat it because it's simple. It's super simple, right? Super super simple, right? Stop thinking of like stop being autistic and like, oh no, I need to eat like something different. I need to eat something different, and like I remember telling this to like a guy that I used to be friends with. Like honestly, bro, like just eat the same thing. And I said this years ago before I was even health conscious like that. And he just looked at me like subhuman he is. He's like, "Oh, bro, I can't do that. I can't eat the same thing. I need variety." It's like most of human history, we literally, for the most part, have always ate the same thing. It'd be very rare that like once in a while you'd eat something different from what you were already eating. And especially since we as MMA fighters come from this warrior culture. What do you think warriors ate? Right? When they were out on these conquests and campaigns, they would pretty much eat the same thing that they brought with them, right? Whenever they were going somewhere. They didn't have variety, right? So again, I'm not saying you can't change it up ever. I'm just saying keep it simple and it'll be so easy to follow, bro. So easy to follow, right? Like that's like the biggest thing, and that's what like it just you know pisses me off when people don't do that. And you cannot be like have financial restrictions and then I say I want like variety in my food. It's like no, just eat the same thing, right? Just eat the same thing every day, especially the weekdays, like the 5 weekdays you have Monday to Friday. It's probably the times you're training, right? Eat the same thing. Now, this is what I want you to focus on. Focus on nutrient density over calories. Okay, I'm not saying calories are not important, but I'm gonna say this. I want you to think of foods like organs, like bone broth, raw dairy, pasture raised eggs, seafood, especially shellfish, wild fruits. Prioritize foods high in the bioavailable vitamins, minerals, collagen, all the important stuff, omega 3s, all that. Focus on that, right? And I'm going to start here and say this something that most people will not tell you, especially like in the bodybuilding niche. These dudes are so autistic and so like dumb. They think that calories in, calories out. This shit is absolute propaganda. Calories in, calories out. It's like propaganda. It's literally like reductionist garbage pushed by these companies that want you obsessing over like the numbers. I want you, it's kind of interesting if you look at the back of like any food, they always put the calories at like at a big number. They'll put the ingredients so small. Isn't that interesting? Right. Anytime you look at the back of a product, right, it'll say the calories and like proteins and this and that, right? 100 calories or whatever. And then the ingredients is listed so small. Again, it's just propaganda, right? I want you to think about this like logically. Are you telling me that 100 calories of like some seed oil like chips, like Cheetos or whatever, is the same as 100 calories of like grass-fed beef? Or 300 calories of processed cereal is the same as 300 calories of raw milk and fruits? It's not. Obviously not. That's the thing. They don't want you to think like that. This is why ingredients matters, source matters, right? Frequency matters, right? Like your food is fuel, right? And if your fuel is corrupted, and so will the fight. So is your fight going to be, right? And I cannot stress this enough. That's what you should be focusing on. And here's the most part most people don't really want to hear, man. Is that you don't need 50 different recipes, and you don't need variety. Like I said, eat the same thing. Eat the same thing every day, and it'll be so much easier to follow, right? Just like your training routine, right? If you really think about it, how do you get better at MMA, like technique wise, right? You kind of like over obsess over a technique, right? That's how you get better. Like, for example, the jab, right? If you want to get good at the jab, you do the jab. If you want to get good at the cross, you do the cross. If you want to get good at the roundhouse kick, you do the roundhouse kick, right? You don't add in like a freaking like I don't know 360 kick if you want to get good at the no. You focus on the roundhouse kick, and then eventually build your way up, right? And then you can once in a while focus on like you know. But I mean, for main training, obviously, you do the same thing over and over and over again by getting better, and it's the same thing with diet. It's the same thing over and over and over again. And then once in a while, you can change it up. Like I said, on the weekends, you can change it up if you really want to. And of course, even on the weekends, if you want to eat something and you want to change it up, make sure it's healthy, of course. Like I said, I cannot stress enough. This modern like obsession with having like a new everyday meal is it's basically just dopamine addiction. Taste. I'm gonna make this point really clear. Taste is for women and children. Now again, I'm not saying you need to eat disgusting shit all the time or on a regular basis. And you can have healthy food that tastes amazing, right? Just eat a core meal plan and repeat it daily, right? And you can join my program, and I have that in there, right? BioHacking for MMA, you can pre-order right now, right? Just eat it, no complaints, no emotional eating, right? We're not women, we're not children, right? You are what you do consistently, not what you do once in a while, right? That's the point that I really want to make clear to you guys. Eat the same shit, right? I know you're like, why is he repeating this? Because most of you subhumans don't understand this, right? I cannot stress this enough. Like this psyop by these companies that tell you you need variety and shit. Just shut the fuck up and eat the same thing every day, okay? Okay, that's like whatever amount of meals you're gonna do, whether it's 2 meals or 3 meals, right? We'll go into that, but whatever meals you're gonna do, like the first meal, for sake of example, like for example for me, what I personally eat is eggs. Like I'll have 3 to 4 eggs in the morning with some sourdough bread. Actually, funny enough, that's actually what I used to do. But like I feel like before training it would be like a little too much, right? So what I actually do now is I'll drink three raw eggs, three raw eggs with some organic black coffee, right? That has lion's mane, mushroom powder, beetroot powder, and raw honey. I'll put that into the organic coffee, and yeah, it's pretty much what I eat. Yeah, it's pretty much what I eat every morning, right before training, because I train in the morning mostly. And then yeah, that's basically what I would do, bro. And people are just like so autistic with it. And then for lunch, yeah, for my second meal of the day, what I would do is rice, but the rice is usually blended in some kind of lentils, right? So it tastes like decent. I'll add some ghee in there, so it tastes a little bit better. Then I'll have ground beef with rice, and I usually repeat that for the week. Like I usually it's the meal, the first meal, and the second meal, and if I have a third meal, actually that my bad, I messed it up. That's actually the third meal. Second meal, the second meal is usually like I'll have like a sandwich, sourdough bread. It'll have like I'll put like a little bit of lettuce, right? Mostly it has meat in it, so it'll have like chicken or it'll have beef. More than likely it'll have beef, right? Then I'll have fruits, right? So I'll have like banana, apples, and 7 ajwa dates, and that's pretty much it. And then my third meal, it was the one that I was talking about. So rice, lentils, it's like blended with the lentils. So the rice actually becomes kind of like yellow, right? And then I'll have ground beef, right? Mixed into the rice usually, or I might have it separate sometimes, but usually it's mixed with the rice. And that's what I eat. That's pretty much what I eat every day that I'm training. On the weekends, I will change it up because I have a bit more time and whatnot. And usually I don't train on the weekends as much, right? Especially Sundays, I don't really train. But the point is, though, you see how I'm preaching what I practice, right? I'm not telling you to, like, eat the same thing and then I don't eat it. I eat the same thing for majority of the week. And, like, I've never felt better. I've never felt better because of it. I cannot stress this enough. If you want that change in your life, it's by doing it consistently, right? You don't change up your workout routine, right? Like, if you're working out, like, let's say today you have chest, let's just say upper body to make it easy, right? So you have upper body and you have lower body. You don't decide to just like normally if your routine is, oh, I'm gonna do like this exercise, and I try to do that exercise, right? Most of us probably do that, right? We don't do another different type of exercise because we think we need variety. No, right? Just pick one thing. Now you can change it up in the sense that, okay, you know what? I want to add this thing, or I want to remove this thing and replace it with this. You can do that. Like I have done that with experimentation and whatnot. That's fine. But keep it consistent. So, like, let's say, for example, 3 to 4 eggs, for example. If you feel like you want to eat more, you're more than welcome to the 5 eggs, 6 eggs, depending on what your goal is. Right? You can do that. That's absolutely fine. What I'm saying is keep it consistent for the most part. For the for the weekdays, especially your days of training, keep it consistent. Don't be autistic and think, oh no, I need to change it up. You don't need to do any of that. Just focus on keeping it consistent. Right? That's literally the most important thing. Now, so the whole point that I'm making in this video is, especially when it comes to diet, is eat whole, organic, ancestral foods. Right? Avoid anything, anything that's synthetic, man-made, or it's like you know, basically what is it called? Processed foods. So avoid synthetic powders, seed oils, lab-made bars with like very suspect ingredients. Or replace it with actual foods, actual whole foods, organic foods, right? And you're very likely to stay on the path. So, right, go for the things that are like grass-fed meat, for example, raw milk, wild caught seafood, right? If you can, especially depending on where you live, the local produce is like amazing, especially if it's just grown in someone's yard, and you know for a fact they didn't spray pesticides on it. Amazing, right? And if you can, fermented foods for your gut health, especially is important, right? Um, I have made, or I probably still have it on Instagram. I have made kefir at home from raw milk, right? It's actually not that hard, right? It's actually honestly not that hard. I highly recommend it. Highly recommend it. Start experimenting with stuff, right? Raw kefir, sauerkraut, right? There's so many things. Water kefir, right? Kombucha tea, right? There's so many things you can do. And majority, but for us specifically that do MMA, right? I'll make this very clear. Majority of what you should be eating, majority of it should consist of meats and particularly fats from the meats. If that makes sense. Right? Because again, I hate how the English language is set up. It makes people think that if you eat fat, you become fat. But it's not really the case. Because in other languages, right, animal fat has a separate name than actually being fat and obese. Right? I don't know why they have it set up like that in the English language. Right? Anyone that speaks a second language can probably attest to it. You know what I'm talking about? Like, animal fat is just completely different. It has nothing to do with actually being a fat ass obese person. Right? First and foremost, right? Also, if you eat fat, if anything, you're gonna gain more muscle mass. Right? That's just what's gonna happen. Right? Your protein sources should ideally come from things like beef, right? Bison, venison, goat, lamb, stuff like this. Right? This will promote a more anabolic and a more androgenic environment. And this will help a ton with the performance and recovery. It's like the best thing you can do. But, that's like the ideal thing that you should be able to do. Majority of what you're eating should be beef, right? And like all these fat subhuman doctors that say, beef is bad for you and stuff like that. Look at them. They look like they're about to die, right? Right? They look like a bunch of subhumans. The fact that they're even allowed to be doctors is actually crazy. How can a fat person be a doctor? How are they allowed that shit? I don't know, man. I would personally not listen to anyone that doesn't practice their advice, right? And again, I'm not saying you have to be some, superhuman like myself, but you should be at least in decent shape before you give any health advice, right? Now we're gonna go over a little bit of like what the best meat is for MMA fighters. There's a lot of options here, right? But the more convenient option is gonna be grass-fed beef, right? And especially if you can get liver, hearts, you know, that's like really good because in those type of organ meats are like really amazing for you. Liver especially, heart especially. And like I mentioned, ground beef, ground cuts, right? Like the animal fat, right? That's amazing for you, right? And the reason I'm saying this is because grass-fed beef has iron, has B12, it has zinc, all these things super vital for your endurance, for your red blood cells, for your testosterone, right? It has creatine in it, and creatine is actually something that naturally boosts explosive power and recovery. And on top of that, it has something called COQ10, right? And it's like really good for it enhances mitochondrial energy, which is really good for your heart, basically. And the liver, right? It has like almost every micronutrient you could think of: B vitamins, retinol, copper, choline, right? And then of course you have collagen-rich cuts. So like we said, the bone, right? Bone broth, right? You can make bone broth out of that, right? And all this stuff will do is support your joints. It's going to support your fascia. It's going to support your tendons. Amazing, right? And organ meats actually, believe it or not, actually fuel your brain health, and of course, fuel your brain health. You're going to have better fight IQ. Now, how should you be eating some of these meats? Basically, just don't overcook it. If you want to be like hardcore and just eat it raw, you be my guest. Just make sure it's sourced properly. That's what I'm gonna say. But just don't overcook it. Basically, 'cause if you overcook it, then you're kind of killing a lot of the nutrients. So don't overcook it, right? Right. And you can also eat something called like lamb, for example, right? Especially if it's again grass fed and everything, pasture raised. All right. It's actually very rich in carnitine, taurine, and something called CLA, conjugated linoleic acid, right? And what's actually interesting is a lot of fighters, I mean, not fighters, warriors, right, in ancient times would actually eat lamb because lamb is a bit more durable of an animal than like a cow is. They can survive harsher climates, especially if you go to like places high up in the mountains. They tend to have more lamb, right? And it's because it's first of all, it's more dense. It has more fatty, right? It has more animal fat, right? And it's high in selenium and zinc, right, which is amazing for your immune system and your hormone support. and it has a better omega-3 to 6 ratio, right? Than a lot of the beef, which unfortunately tends to be grain-fed, especially with pesticides and stuff like that, right? And it's amazing as a recovery meal, especially after training, right? Right. Again, if you're either a hunter or if you can somehow get this, right? If you can get this, that would be amazing, right? Wild game, so things like elk, bison, venison, like deer, right? If you can get this, right, the meat tends to be a little bit more lean, but it is pretty high in bioavailable protein, right? And of course, right, it has pretty much no antibiotics, no hormones, and it doesn't have a grain diet because it was out in the wild, right? It's a peak specimen. It's kind of like, like a jacked human, right? It's higher in omega-3s and lower in omega-6s. And of course, farm-raised animals, right? It's a great source for um iron, for selenium, for phosphorus, right? It would be really good at, like, if, like, let's say you're trying to cut weight, right? This is definitely what I would recommend if you could. If you get some, right? I will be honest, it is a little harder to get this, but I know. Listen to Joe Rogan, right? There's other fighters that are into hunting. Like I think Volkanovski is, Chad Mendes, right? They're into hunting, so like, it's like if you get like if you basically go and you hunt, right? Especially if you have the means to, right? And if you really just get one deer, that can literally last you for like a year or two, right? And if you're just by yourself, it'll probably last you for a while, right? If you just keep it in the freezer and everything, and you prepare it well. Now, the next meat I'm gonna recommend, I'm gonna recommend it, but you know, some forewarning: pasture-raised chickens. Right now, I know a lot of people, especially, don't like chicken per se in you know house space because a lot of chicken is not you know raised well, basically. So make sure the chicken is organic, right? Make sure it doesn't have any soy or corn in its diet. Now, you can somehow raise the chickens yourself. That would be amazing, right? But maybe some of you don't have that option, right? Just make sure it's good quality chicken, organic, right? Nothing like weird stuff, no injections, right? Right. And you want to specifically get like the dark meats and the organs, especially because chicken liver is like really good for you, right? And if you get good quality chicken, it's rich in carnosine and anserine, right, which is great for your endurance and for your brain actual health, right, and for brain protection. Weirdly enough, it's high in glycine and collagen, right? The liver is very high in vitamin A and B12, right? And please avoid any like weird chicken, right? Because unfortunately, chicken is like the most abused animal and like meat production. I don't know why, right? Because the problem is with these chickens that are just like low quality, they have a bunch of estrogenic fat and antibiotics. So like obviously avoid that. But you want to prioritize if you're going to get chicken: thighs, legs, liver, hearts, right? The organs and stuff like that. Prioritize that, right? But primarily, if you can eat beef or grass-fed beef, particularly, right? And now we're gonna go over some seafood as well. Let me just drink some water real quick. So, sardines, right? Obviously, make sure all the seafood you get, make sure it's wild caught. Now, there are some exceptions to the rule, and I'm gonna go over those exceptions as we go on in the video. But if you are gonna get like seafood, right, just make sure it's high quality wild caught. That tends to be the best, right? And sardines, if it's wild caught with the bone in, it's extremely rich in DHA and EPA, right? Omega-3s, which is amazing for your brain health, nervous system, and reaction time, which is obviously very important for MMA. the calcium from the bone actually strengthens your joints, your teeth, and your frame, or your bone health, basically. It's high in selenium, B12, vitamin D, and something called CoQ10, like I went over, right? It's good for your brain. And yeah, I mean, it's up to you how much you want to do this, but it's really good for you as either it can be a pre-fight snack, or you could use it as a recovery tool, depending on the time frame that you're going to eat it. Now, oysters. Oysters are really good, especially if you can get wild caught oysters. And depending on where you live, right, it actually doesn't matter. So, this is what I'm going to go over, right? I know a lot of people like to eat oysters raw, but this depends on where you live, okay? And where the oysters are coming from, right? So, if you're getting oysters, and let's say you live by the West Coast, like I do, right, and the oysters are from the West Coast, right, then technically it's fine to eat it, you know, raw if you want to, because there's not that much shipping time between that, right? And the accumulation of bacteria is very low. But if you live in, like, let's say the Midwest and you're getting oysters from either the East Coast or the West Coast, right? And there's obviously a big delay when it comes to, the packaging and it arriving to you, then obviously don't eat it raw because unfortunately, if it sits into the, how do I say this? It basically, when it's shipping, there's a delay, right? And because of that delay, it will accumulate bacteria. Not that this is bad or anything, right? You just have to cook it a little bit, right? But just don't eat it raw. Like if you live in the very middle of the US, right? Or if you live in a part of a country where the shipping is just way too long, then obviously don't eat raw oysters, right? Keep that in mind, right? Especially if you live in the Midwest. Now, if you live in the East Coast and you get oysters from the East Coast, that's fine. But if, like, let's say you live in the West Coast, because I've seen it happen, you, and they'll actually get oysters from the East Coast. I don't know why they do this, right? But they'll get oysters from the East Coast, but it's like you could have just gotten them from the West Coast. Like we have oysters here, so don't eat oysters that are like from super far away. That are like you can eat them, just don't eat them raw. This is my point. Cook the oysters if they come from far away. Is the point? Does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense. I know I probably didn't explain it the best, but hopefully that makes sense. All right. So just keep that in mind. It's actually very important. I personally don't really eat raw oysters, like unless I know where it exactly comes from. All right. But again, if you're a bit of a daredevil, you can do it. Just make sure it's coming from somewhere close to you. Right? Because again, because of the shipping delay, bacteria can accumulate and it can be problematic, of course. Right? So just keep that in mind. But the benefits of oysters, man, it has the highest amount of zinc of like any food. Right? If you can get oysters on a consistent basis, man, that is like life changing. Because I've done this, especially when I was getting consistent wild caught oysters on a consistent basis. Unfortunately, the place that I was getting it from, I don't know why they changed it to farm raised now. Right, right. So I don't get oysters as much as I was before. So I have to find somewhere else to get them. Right. The point is, if you can get oysters, and I was eating it like I think I was eating like maybe like 5 to 7 a week. Right. So in 1 week, I was eating that many. You can space it out like every day if you wanted to. You can do that, but who has the time for that? Right. I just did it 1 day in a week personally. I just eat like the zinc requirement, and the reason why zinc is super crucial, right, especially from oysters, is it's crucial for your testosterone, for your immune strength, and for wound healing. Right. So you're going to recover faster. Right. Especially in MMA, where you can get obviously abrasions or whatever. Right. Any type of damage. Right. Zinc is really important for that. Right. It's high in iodine. It's high in selenium, which basically supports your thyroid and your endurance. And it naturally enhances your libido, your drive, and that's going to enhance your aggression in the cage, right? So if you can, once a week, just Saturday, you're just going to make some oysters, right? Just once a week. I have like, depending on, again, the requirement for you, and the zinc requirement, I usually used to eat like 5 to 7 oysters every once a week. You can space it out and just eat um one oyster or two, 3 oysters a day. But I just did it in once a week. Now, wild caught salmon, especially if you can get like sockeye or like king, that's like amazing. Again, salmon is actually really good. You just have to know how to cook it well, right? It's like really good for your brain health and your joint health. It's loaded with something called what is the chemical? I believe it's called astaxanthin. It's a powerful anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, right? And it supports your heart health, your blood flow, and your endurance during, especially like if you have intense training sessions. Yeah, right. Intense rounds. It's gonna help you with that. It's really good for recovery food, right? Especially after lifting or after training. Now this is where the outlier for wild caught is where farm raised is actually slightly better in this case if it comes from New Zealand. So I've gotten mussels from New Zealand, and man, I cannot stress this enough. Right, mussels and clams, like especially mussels, like if you can get these, because actually farm raised is actually just wild caught. If we're being honest here, it's actually raised in the same exact way. The only difference is in New Zealand they have stricter guidelines, so they actually make sure these animals are not in polluted waters. Sometimes even wild caught animals can be in polluted waters, right? With mussels, especially if they come from New Zealand. Right? I posted this on my Instagram story a while back. The point is, if they come from, you know, New Zealand specifically and they're farm raised, then it's actually better than even wild caught. It's the exception to the rule. This is the exception to the rule. Highly recommend getting mussels with clams because, again, they're high in B12, vitamin B12, manganese, iron, and vitamin C. It supports your neurotransmitter production and your red blood cell health. So basically, what that means is it's going to promote faster hearing, focus, and nerve health. You'll recover a lot better when you do this. It's basically like a natural vitamin, multivitamin from like the sea, right? Now you can cook it in many ways. You can cook it as a broth, right? And like you can put some seaweed or garlic if you wanted to enhance mineral absorption, especially with kelp or seaweed, which is really good. It has a good amount of iodine in it. Um, Other thing that you can eat is something called mackerel, especially if you can get the Atlantic or Spanish kind. And this is also another powerful food because again, it's high with fat content. Right, this is kind of interesting and somewhat rare in fish sometimes, seafoods especially. Right, but this is really good because it's really good for your nervous system optimization. Right, it contains vitamin D, magnesium, and selenium. It's great for obviously like having explosive power for your brain speed and recovery. So you're gonna be obviously all this is very important for MMA, as you know. Explosive power, your brain speed, basically your reaction time, how much you can, think. I know people say you can think. Like, you get my point. Brain speed, and obviously you're gonna recover faster, right? Now there is a disclaimer: avoid um king mackerel because sometimes it can have too much mercury. But again, with any seafood, really, you can do it detox. So just keep that in mind, right? You can detox some mercury out of your system, and I would not avoid seafood just because of that. A lot of people want to fearmonger this. There's a detox, right? Right, just detox. Make sure that the fish are coming from somewhere healthy, right? And that's like a due diligence on your part, right? And again, we're gonna be going over all types of foods, man. Something called octopus and squid. I actually have ate squid. I didn't know it was squid. It was I believe they call it calamari. Yeah, and basically it's like squid that's kind of like grilled or cooked. But I've ate squid. It actually tastes pretty good. I didn't even know it was squid. I thought it was just regular fish, but it tasted good, right? And again, open up your horizons, right? Like if you're gonna eat seafood, right? I'm not saying go and eat, animals that are toxic for you, right? The squid is actually good for you, and the octopus too, because it's high in taurine, which supports brain clarity, cardiovascular endurance, and gives you electrolyte balance. Weirdly enough, right? It's a good, clean, lean protein source, right? It promotes nerve health and fascia hydration, right? This is something interestingly enough, a lot of like the Mediterranean, like warrior cultures really ate, and of course in the East as well, like Eastern Asia. Now, something called fish roe, which I believe is just like eggs of fish, right? Like salmon roe, lumpfish roe. I mean, I believe what's it called? The black thing. Um, it's like a delicacy. It's like an expensive delicacy. I forgot. Basically, one is these are actually really good for you. It's rich in brain food, BHA rich food, and it's amazing for your brain. Contains fat solubles, vitamin A, D, E, and K2. K2 very important. It's great for your nervous system repair, and for your memory, and for your focus. Right. Just having like 1 tablespoon is like amazing. Right? Especially if you combine this with like raw liver or like eggs. Oh man, you're set. Now there's some bonus I will give you. Seaweed. So like it could be kelp, it could be dulce or clami. Right. It's hard to say. I mean, they are technically seafood, I guess. And the reason is, I would recommend getting this, especially if you have low iodine, which is what I had. I didn't even know at one point. Right? But especially if you train MMA, you might get these cyst bumps in your back, and it's just in the back of your head, basically, or anywhere in your body, really. But I got it on the back of my head. When I started supplementing with kelp powder, those cysts went away because it comes from lack of iodine. If you go to some dermatologist, and I went there, right, you know what they said? We could remove it for you if you want. Basically, they're gonna cut it open, remove it, but ironically enough, it seems bad. So your body is trying to tell you that you have something, and you're just ignoring it. And that's why these fat subhuman doctors, bro, they don't know anything, right? So if you have like bumps like randomly, it's more than likely it's a cyst bump, and those cyst bumps are a sign that you have low vitamin D. So start supplementing with kelp powder, or you just eat kelp, right? It's up to you how you want to do this. And it's amazing for your thyroid health, for your metabolism, and for your endurance. It's a natural detoxifier of heavy metals and radiation, right? So EMF radiation and stuff like that, right? Improves hydration, cellular repair, and joint function. There's many ways you can do it. What I personally do is I just put a little bit of kelp powder, like you can either put 1/8. I put 1/4 teaspoon. The teaspoon, yeah, teaspoon. 1/4 of a teaspoon into my protein shakes. And ever since then, I haven't had any cyst bumps. Right now, I'm gonna go over some of the now we're gonna be changing topics a little bit. I mean, it's still on the topic, but we're gonna go over some of the best fruits because fruits, depending on the fruit, can be a very good source of carbs, and carbs are basically energy, right? And fat is also energy technically as well, right? Isn't it? But especially for MMA, you need carbs, right? I recommend small carbs before you train, fast digesting carbs, and slow digesting carbs after you train. So examples of fast digesting carbs are like honey, like raw honey. Obviously, make sure it's sourced well, or yeah, like honey pretty much. And then honey's probably your best bet. And then slow digesting carbs after you're done training for recovery. It's like rice, could be fruits, right? Stuff like that. It's like really good for you. So I'm gonna go over some of the fruits that you can eat. And generally, for fruits, you want to avoid anything that's seedless, right? It's non-organic. So it's basically just loaded with chemicals and GMO and pesticides, right? you want to avoid commercial like fruit juices because unfortunately they add a bunch of other shit in there. They add like it's supposed to be just orange juice, but they add like other chemicals. It'll say like palmate or whatever, right? Again, or sometimes it'll be like weirdly enough, it's not bad enough that they've pasteurized milk, but they're trying to pasteurize fruit juices. That is legit the most stupid thing ever. Why are we pasteurizing everything? I literally saw this pasteurized. Like it was like a orange juice, but it was pasteurized, and I was like, "You have just destroyed the orange juice. There's literally no point to drinking this now." I swear they're gonna try and convince us that drinking raw like juice from fruits is like bad for you now, or just like they've done it with the raw milk. They'll come up with some bullshit, right? Point is though, let's focus on the fruits. A really good, amazing fruit. It's probably arguably, in my view, one of the best fruits you can eat is pomegranate. Pomegranate, amazing, amazing, right? It's amazing, especially for MMA, right? Because it fuels the blood, and when you fuel the blood, you fuel the fighter, right? It boosts blood flow and oxygen delivery. Pomegranate naturally increases nitric oxide in the body, the same compound that many of these like synthetic pre-workouts try to spike artificially, right? But this gives it to you naturally. And basically what that does is it increases vascularity and blood flow to the muscles and the brain. It's better oxygen delivery during rounds and grappling scrambles, right? It gives you faster recovery between rounds due to more efficient circulation. Hey, maybe I might have to locally experiment with this myself. And obviously very benefits for MMA, but maybe I'm thinking about doing an experiment now, right? And I might have to get some pomegranate juice in between rounds and see if I feel better. That would be an issue. Either pomegranate juice or pomegranate powder, right? I'm like, hmm, actually, would be very interesting to see, do I recover faster, right? Because of that. But I mean, pomegranate's really good for your heart. It's really good for your heart, right? And there's like so many benefits, man. So many benefits, right? It's a testosterone enhancer, and these are backed by studies. Studies that show that pomegranate can actually increase testosterone levels by up to like 24%. It can improve your mood and boost libido, especially when consumed on a regular basis, right? And I remember, man, when I was consuming pomegranate on a regular basis, man, I felt amazing. And like, yeah, I felt amazing. Especially like I have a pomegranate tree in my yard, and I would just get it from there, right then and there. Right, cut the fruit from the branch, and get it. Right, either we would make the juice, or I would just eat it straight up. Right, either way, it's amazing for you. Right. And the reason this matters, obviously, testosterone is very important, and it's responsible for your aggression, for your recovery, for your strength, and your mental drive. And you get this from a natural source, bro. A natural source, right? Brain blood barrier protector and focus enhancer as well. The antioxidants in pomegranate, right? Actually are pretty rare in nature, but they directly support brain's blood flow system and the detox systems. So if you're trying to detox stuff out of your body because of whatever really bad habits you had before, Amaranth is basically going to enhance that detox system that's in your body. Right? It's going to improve focus and clarity, especially during fast-paced exchanges when you're sparring or training or whatever. It reduces brain inflammation, right? Which is super essential, right? Because of head trauma and all that. It enhances your memory and your IQ. Now imagine this: you combine pomegranate juice like lion's mane, or what is the other one? Rhodiola, right? And you basically, it's a brain enhancer right there, right? Now another great fruit, avocados. Right? Obviously, you guys know this, but the brain is actually made out of fat, right? 60% fat. Animal, like I don't want to say animal fat, but fat. So think about this. They've been telling you that fat is bad for you. but your brain is made out of 60% fat. What kind of propaganda is that shit, right? Now, obviously, we went over in the meat section, and that's the reason why I recommended eating a lot of fat, because for your brain health, right? And of course, for your muscles and all that too, but primarily your brain health, which is very important and underlooked in MMA. A lot of people will just look at just muscle and stuff, and that's important. Don't get me wrong. Your brain health, especially when it comes to MMA, is super important, right? Especially when you're dealing with head trauma and stuff like that. Super important, right? And avocados do have fat. It's one of the, I think it's the fruit with the most fat, if I'm not mistaken, right? Avocados are packed with the same exact fat that's actually found in olive oil, funny enough, right? And these fats are super important because it fuels your brain and it gives you better high speed reaction time. It supports your hormone production, including testosterone. It protects your cell membrane and nervous system under pressure. All right. Obviously, this is going to be very important if you're cutting weight. So you don't want to damage your hormones, right? Weight, which is a lot to do. People do. Man, I need to water. Uh, reverse osmosis water, by the way. Right. Joint tendon and ligament lubrication. So, unlike these processed seed oils, right, avocado fat actually reduces joint friction. It supports something called a synovial fluid, and we basically just it's fluid that naturally protects your connective tissues. Obviously, for your knees, for your elbows, right, it's especially important even for your wrist, right, or like you have shoulder pain or whatever. It reduces inflammation, especially if you had a hard training session from sparring or grappling or whatever it is, right? Amazing for your brain, right? And nervous system's optimization. Avocados are rich in something called choline and B vitamins. And these things actually support faster neurotransmitter signaling. So it's going to make you sharper and focus better. It's going to give you better memory, long term brain repair from like a couple concussions and overtraining. And again, in my program, I do actually go over how to fix brain damage. Right? So I highly recommend it. Highly recommend you pre-order right now and you get full access to everything. Right? How to avoid brain damage and how to repair it, right? Right. Weirdly enough, potassium overload. So hash has more potassium than even bananas. Right? Believe it or not, avocados have more potassium than bananas, which makes them a superior option. Right. So for muscle contractions and preventing cramps, obviously really good. Hydration and electrolyte balance. Can reverse fatigue and burnout from saunas, heat, or training camps. Right. Obviously very important. Right. Now, I have a love and hate relationship with this next fruit, right? But bananas, right? The problem is most bananas, especially the ones that are sold today in the US, probably other countries too. You've seen the yellow banana, right? Unfortunately, I mean, I don't, again, I'm not saying it's bad per se. If you're a healthy individual, it's not going to be the worst thing in the world. But wild bananas are definitely important. Wild bananas are the ones with the seeds, right? Those are real bananas, actually. The modern day bananas without the seeds, again, right? I have a love and hate relationship with bananas because bananas are really good if you get them, wild, from places like Indonesia and stuff like that. But that obviously is the hardest thing for most people to do. So you can eat them in the meantime. But again, remember, ideal thing is to eat wild bananas because again, wild bananas are actually closer to how your ancestors ate bananas, right? Because they're fertile and they're non-hybridized and they're much closer to the original species that your ancestors ate. They're smaller, but they're super nutrient dense and they have real seeds. And they're far more, they have more medicinal properties to them, right? And the reason is because they're high in potassium, magnesium, and something called a natural glucose, which is perfect for right before you train. Right? So bananas actually can be a fast digesting carb as well, right? But again, I have a love and hate relationship because A lot of the bananas they sell today in stores, like those aren't real bananas. If I'm being honest here, right? So I mean, if you are gonna get bananas, you want to get them slightly green. If you are gonna get them from the store, because they're resistant to starch, so it's a little bit better for your gut. It's better for your blood sugar control. And again, bananas are also good as a post recovery as well for electrolyte replenish. Right. Yeah, I mean, I have a love and hate relationship with bananas because of that. But again, try not to overthink it, I guess. Blueberries, especially if you can get wild blueberries, that's like even better. Organic, right? Wild blueberries. Right. And I've had wild blueberries and wild elderberries. Amazing, right? That's what I actually make my protein shakes with. Wild blueberries and wild elderberries. Short story just for you guys to know. When I went hunting, there were these wild elderberries that I saw, and I just grabbed them. I just and I've been using those ever since, especially my protein shakes and whatnot. Right, and the reason you want to get blueberries wild. Now, if you can get wild organic, is fine. That's fine. I've seen like wild blueberries tend to be frozen. That's what I've seen. Right, and it's actually better. Right, but they're packed with something called antocyanin, which is basically something that reduces brain inflammation and improves focus and memory. It's a natural nootropic effect. It gives you better reaction speed and fight IQ. It helps detoxify heavy metals and radiation exposure. Now, if you put this in yogurt or kefir or even in your protein shake, it's amazing, right? I love putting it in there. Now, there's next fruit. It's actually one of my favorites as well. Dates. Dates, especially. I personally really like the ajwa dates. And those are like, honestly, probably the best ones you can get. But if you can't get your hands on that, medjool dates are also good, right? And amazing, amazing, right? Especially that it's actually another form of a high, fast digesting carb. If I'm being honest, ajwa dates are super amazing, right? And just dates in general, they're super high in minerals like potassium, magnesium, calcium. It's excellent for rebuilding glycogen stores after um, a weight cut, especially, right? Right. And now you can just eat them regularly. That's what I do. Some people put them in protein shakes or whatever. Up to you, right? Another thing with watermelon, again, make sure it's not seedless, right? Right. 92% water, which is great for post sweat hydration. Contains citrulline, which improves blood flow, pumps, and obviously it's amazing for recovery. It actually cools your liver and kidney, especially after hard training session or sauna session, right? There's so many fruits, but I'll just give you guys, you know, just probably lemon and lime because, especially as an electrolyte, if you just put it in some water right before you train, because in between rounds you're drinking water, right? You can squeeze lemon in there or lime. That's sometimes what I do with some salt and good quality salt, of course. Right. It's rich in vitamin C, right, which protects the brain, joints, and adrenaline glands. It helps alkalize blood, flush toxins, and supports digestion. It enhances nutrient absorption when paired with meals. Right. So just add like a pinch of salt and some lemon or lime. Right. Right. There's key lime that's also like really good for you. Right. It's also really good. Now, in the next list I'm gonna give you, it's gonna be vegetables. And I know vegetables, especially now, are kind of controversial, but not really. Like honestly, it's not really like the seed oils you gotta be worried about, especially in like random stuff like ketchup or salad dressings. Right, right. You obviously want organic vegetables if you are gonna eat vegetables, and pesticide free, of course. Right, and obviously don't overcook anything. Right. But you do want to cook them. Ideally, you're actually boiling them, right? Boiling them is actually the best way to go, right? You want to avoid yeah, just vegetables that aren't organic. Right. And again, I'll say this with a disclaimer: if you are going to eat vegetables, don't eat too much, basically. Right. Unless it's like something very specific, and it's like, you know, you're trying to detox something for your body, and you need to eat that a lot more vegetables. That's fine. But yeah, but that's fine, honestly. Right. But a good. I know this will sound basic. Broccoli, right? And the reason I recommend broccoli is because it's an anti-inflammatory armor builder, right? So the reason fighters need it, especially, is because it's high in something called sulforaphane, right? Which is actually something that destroys chronic inflammation in joints, brain, and organs. It supports liver detox and hormone regulation, especially if you already have a high amount of estrogen in your body. It's amazing, right? Especially for men, where you don't want too much estrogen, right? It clears that estrogen from your body. It contains things like calcium and vitamin K. Obviously, amazing for your bone health and clotting, right? Another thing, carrots, right? It's actually really good, especially for your eyes and your hormones, right? It's rich in something called beta carotene, right, which is a vitamin A precursor. So it supports, that can actually help your eyes so much so that basically supports being able to see better at night. It obviously makes your reflexes better, your immune strength. It helps body bind and remove excess estrogen, right? And obviously, this is very critical for natural testosterone balance. And it strengthens something called the mucous membrane, right? Which is obviously very important for your lungs, your gut, and your gut lining specifically, right? There's many ways to eat the carrot. You can eat it boiled, right? Some people eat it raw, right? There's also fermented carrots you can eat, like a carrot kraut, which is also really good for your gut and your hormone support, right? Oh, now this is one that actually I use pretty decently a lot, right? It's garlic, right? It's actually a very good antibiotic, natural antibiotic, right? It's antiviral, antifungal, antibacterial, right? Obviously, all this is going to strengthen your immune system under fighting stress, right? And just in general, right? It lowers your blood pressure without any of the pharmaceutical stuff. It actually increases your testosterone, right? And your circulation and your nitric oxide levels, like I mentioned earlier, very important for your cardio, right? Now another one, onions. Onions are really good. Amazing for your blood, for your testosterone, for your immunity boost, right? You want to boost your testosterone naturally, especially when, right? This might be one of the few vegetables, including carrots, where you can kind of eat it raw. Personally, I recommend again boiling it, right? Right. Or you could just eat it with something. That you could also do, right? But it enhances your blood flow, it supports the liver detox, and stabilizes blood sugar, right? So it actually will reduce something called joint inflammation, and it's going to clean out sinus congestion, right? So if you have a lot of mucus buildup, onions will get rid of that, and it will give you a respiratory boost, right? Now, are these vegetables? I guess they technically count, right? Mushrooms, right? Especially if you get good mushrooms, right? They're really good for your brain health and for your immune system, right? Right. We'll basically just count them as vegetables. 'Cause what the hell else are they? They're technically counted as their own kingdom, but why? One of the best types that you can take. Honestly, there's a lot of mushrooms, right? There's something called take, right? It's amazing for your strengthening your immune system and reduces fatigue. There's a mushroom actually called oyster, believe it or not. It's actually high in zinc and supports the nervous system, right? Lion mane mushroom, like I've been mentioning, amazing for your brain health, right? That can actually uh, increase stem cells in your body, right? And it gives you another mushroom. There's a femini, or also another one, portobello, which is amazing for B vitamins and endurance, right? But mushrooms are really good. I personally just put lion's mane mushroom um in your body. I mean, in protein shakes. That's what I personally do. I put it in my coffee as well. Right, right. There's so many beneficial things. Again, I go into full detail with this in my program. I highly recommend you join. Like, I go over like the most autistic level detail that you can think of. Right, amazing, right, amazing stuff. But burdock root is also really good. Um, it's an ancient vegetable, actually. Weirdly enough, it was used by many cultures, samurais or indigenous warriors. And what's amazing about this is it actually purifies your blood. So it gives you clear skin, joints, and toxins, and it reduces toxins from your system. It boosts lymphatic drainage and detox pathways. So if you feel very bloated, it's very good for you. It helps heal eczema, acne, and fungal overgrowth, right? That are caused by these synthetic, pharmaceutical like foods and whatnot, processed foods, right? There's so many foods, man. So many foods. Now, I don't want to bore you to death with all the vegetables that you could be eating. Again, just join the program. I list them all below. Right, right. Now again, this next thing is technically part of vegetables. It can be part of fruits, but fruits are kind of like vegetables. If we're being honest here, right? Um, best thing I recommend with seeds, right? Seeds, right? Which are basically the baby of the fruit or vegetable. I recommend eating them in small quantities, not in massive amounts, right? But generally, obviously, avoid seed oils. Things like canola, soybean, corn, safflower, basically any seed oils. Just avoid that. Right, those toxic inflammations. Right, avoid any like sugar-coated seeds. Avoid any like microwave. Don't microwave seeds. I don't know who's microwaving seeds. Right, right. Especially since like soy seed is like really bad for you. Like canola, it's also known as rapeseed. The weirdest name. Right, cottonseed. Seed oils, actually terrible for you. Terrible for you. Right. But again, like I said, eat the seeds that I want to recommend right now. Eat them in small quantities, right? Because at the end of the day, yeah, you don't want to eat too much of this. Just small enough to where it's beneficial, right? Something called black seed, right? This seed is actually really good, right? It's actually a seed that can cure everything but death, according to ancient Islamic traditions, right? Right. It's a really good, powerful anti-inflammatory, anti-parasitic, and it regulates blood sugar, it regulates blood pressure, and helps detox heavy metals out of your body. Right? Amazing. Right? I eat about like 5 to 7 black seeds every day, give or take, or I'll drink black seed oil. That's what I personally do. There's also pumpkin seeds. I personally eat these at night. Right? It's like a handful, not too much. All right? It's actually the highest source of zinc out there when it comes to, besides oysters, of course, right? Oysters tend to be a little bit better, but again, it's still good because it boosts your testosterone and your immune system, and your immune defense and muscle recovery. It's high in magnesium. It's vital for muscle relaxation, sleep, and brain power. And it contains something called tryptophan, right, which basically supports a calm and deeper sleep cycle. Very interesting, right? right? And what's actually interesting is any seeds that I recommend, right? There's so many, right? Vitamin B17 is actually something in seeds. It's called, now it's a lost vitamin. Technically, they've gotten it out of this table. I think the name now is like amygdalin, something like that. Right. But vitamin B17 is a naturally occurring compound found in, especially in apricot kernels, like apricot seeds. Right. It's uh, it's also found in almond, apple seeds, basically almost any seeds. Right. It's actually interesting. It's an anti-cancer seed. It can actually destroy cancer from your body. Right. Right. Especially when you eat it, like I said, in low stages. Right. And the reason why you want to be doing this is because, again, you can find this from watermelon seeds or any seeds, really. Right. Vitamin B17 is actually can target and destroy damaged or abnormal cells in your body, right? Especially cancer cells, right? It can strengthen your immune system, right? And your specifically, it can help eliminate mutilated or weaker cells, right? It helps clean out toxins from the body stored, especially in like your fatty tissues from the synthetic food or from like a polluted environment, right? Vitamin B17 from the seeds destroys all that. Now we're gonna go over basically things that you can drink. Now, I would recommend getting a reverse osmosis water filter. Right? That's like the best thing you can do. Right? Especially since who doesn't need water? Right? But like the things you should avoid before I go over what you be drinking, avoid any of that processed shit. Right? Sport drinks like Gatorade, Powerade. These are artificial dyes, sugars, and they're not real electrolytes, they're fake. Energy drinks, avoid that shit. Flavored water. Really, do you really need flavor in your water? Right, and avoid like synthetic pre-workout drinks. Right, don't like shit like C4 or whatever. Right, don't. Okay, yeah. Focus getting focus on reverse osmosis. Get that if you can. It's a little pricey to get the filter, but it's worth it, man. It's worth getting. Right, right. And I list out all the products that you can get. All the products that I've mentioned, I'll list them out in the program. Right, if you can join. And again, I recommend stuff that actually works because I'm not sponsored by any of the products. Right? I'm only going to recommend stuff that works. Right? At the end of the day, right? But yeah, I mean, if you can get a reverse osmosis water filtration system, that's money right there. Right? You just have to put salt in it to refuel the electrolytes and everything because it gets rid of everything. Right? Now, if you can get spring water from a local spring that isn't contaminated with anything, that's also really good because this is what actually your ancestors used to drink. Right? Either from well water or spring water. Right? Right? And that type of water naturally contains things like magnesium, calcium, silica, right? Natural electrolytes, right? Which actually hydrates the cells really well. Like it recharges the nervous system and flushes toxins out of your body, right? If you get, there's a website actually I listed in my in my program, right? There's a website you can go and you can find a local spring actually, right? I highly recommend. You can, there's a local spring somewhere around your area, right? You can use our website and it's in my program, right? I highly recommend you join and you get all this amazing stuff that I'm telling you, right? Right. Also, another thing that I recommend when it comes to hydration, if I haven't gone over it already, raw milk. Right? I have a full detailed guide on raw milk in a lot more detail, but make sure it's grass fed, right? Make sure it's high quality, right? Basically, when you drink raw milk, right, you basically none of the nutrients are destroyed in the milk compared to pasteurized milk, which also has estrogenic chemicals, right? You can get raw milk from any animal. It could be cow, goat, camel. But watch that video I have about milk. Right? It's more detailed, and raw milk is way more bioavailable. Right? It has good gut bacteria. It helps build muscle mass faster. Right? It boosts testosterone and helps joint recovery. Right? Coconut water, amazing, amazing. Right? This is basically a natural electrolyte you can drink, especially if you can just get actual coconuts, or if you can get coconut water. Right? There are some companies that sell them in glass. Right? If you can get that, that would be good. Right? It's rich in potassium, magnesium, right? Enzymes, right? Replenishes electrolytes which without sugar or chemicals. It helps prevent cramps, fatigue, and overtraining. Right? Right? You can also get like another way to really hydrate really well. There's there's like herbal tonics. So like basically plant elixirs, right? And I've seen this specifically with mushrooms. There's a company, I believe, Alive Mushroom or something. They make this. I've tried their stuff. Really clean ingredients, but it tastes really well, right? So they'll have like herbal drink combos. Like it'll have like ginger, lemon, raw honey, and like tea, right? Good quality tea, right? Or like we'll add like some kind of mushroom in there, right? Amazing stuff, right? Another way is raw fermented beverages, right? These raw fermented beverages are basically probiotic, right? Sometimes they're prebiotic, which is also good, right? So things like raw kefir, which you can make with the raw milk, right? And there's a company that makes it. I believe it's Raw Farms. Highly recommend. Right, I drink it. I made raw kefir at home as well. Right, amazing for gut health. It boosts digestion and gives your brain really well. Right, you can also do raw kombucha. Again, you can get it, you can buy it, or you can make it. It's up to you. Right, just make sure it's sourced. Everything's sourced properly. Right, right. There's so many things. Like I believe there's water kefir. It's also really good. Right, right. So many. Like Shilajit. Oh, this is amazing. If you can like overdose on Shilajit, you should. Right, it's really good. It's amazing for testosterone, mental clarity, and mitochondrial energy. Just make sure it's cleaned, sourced. I personally recommend only getting the ones that come from Pakistan, right? And the reason is because a lot of these other companies, basically, they're sus, right? They're not sourced properly. And I mean, a good Shilajit low key is going to cost you a bit of money, but it's worth it. And it's really good because it detoxifies heavy metals and rebuilds the nervous system. Right? Amazing. It gives you basically, it's kind of like a pre-workout almost, right? Especially if you drink it in the morning and you drink it at night. Amazing. You'll have amazing sleep, right? Right? Amazing stuff, right? Also, you can also rehydrate yourself with lemon, sea salt, or like good quality salt, right? If sourced properly. Or even like you can put honey in your water if you want, right? Like reverse osmosis after that, or even spring water, like I mentioned. It's perfect for rehydrating yourself, right? Especially during training or post training, right? It helps liver detox, hydration, and electrolyte restoration. It promotes mental sharpness, alkalinity, and stamina. Right? Amazing stuff, right? Mushroom teas are also really good. A lot of people really like that stuff too, because especially like reishi mushroom tea, it trains your parasympathetic nervous system, which is basically obviously very important, right? Especially if you're training pretty hardcore. It's very important. It enhances emotional control and fight composure. And it obviously gives you better deep sleep and adrenaline recovery, right? Another thing, actually, some people don't know about this colostrum. Colostrum, I mean, it basically kind of is raw milk, but colostrum specifically is really good because it's actually the first milk of the newborn, right? It's actually going to help you with muscle growth as well, right? And it's amazing for your immune system and brain regeneration, right? Right. Again, I go over this in more detail in my program, but it's going to promote gut lining repair, which is essential for nutrient absorption, right? And what's weirdly enough, it contains something called IGF-1, which supports lean muscle mass growth and cellular repair as well, naturally. Obviously, make sure if you can't get colostrum like milk in the milk form, you can get colostrum powder, right? That's also really good, right? Make sure it's sourced properly and it's grass fed, right? You can put it into your protein shake or whatever, right? It's amazing for that, right? There's so many drinks that can help, so many, right? There's also something interestingly enough, something called sun infused water, right? So basically, what you do is take water, put it into a glass container, right? And you just leave it outside, right, for a couple of hours, right? I believe some people even leave it out for a day or so, right? Right. It's actually structured water molecules. It restores the structure, basically, in these water molecules through the sunlight. This is research by someone called Dr. Pollack, right? So for us MMA fighters, well, how would this help? It helps us because it enhances cellular hydration and electrical charge of the body, right? Now, if you put this, you can also do this with copper vessels, right? The only downside is if you have reverse osmosis and you put it in copper. I learned this the hard way. Basically, like you're gonna have to be keep cleaning your copper constantly. It's gonna blacken it out, right? So use distilled water, right, for copper, right? Obviously, when it comes to oils, just to keep it simple, ghee, right? Which is clarified butter, I believe, or calcified butter. You can also use grass-fed butter, also. Yeah. There's raw butter, which I think Raw Farm also makes, right? Which is also grass-fed, right? There's you can use beef tallow or animal fat like camel hump fat. I've cooked with that as well. Amazing stuff. And then what I highly, highly recommend, if you guys can, um, avoid seed oils. Like I said, don't don't cook shit in seed oils, right? And with olive oil is better as like something you put on top. Right? You don't really want to cook with olive oil. You can also cook with coconut oil, right? Technically, it's not bad. Like that's actually fine. But a lot taste it changes the taste of the food, right? But the next few oils that I'm gonna mention, these aren't cooking oils. These are just like oils you should be drinking, right? You can technically drink these other oils too, the ones that I mentioned before. Like black seed oil, like I said, I drink about it. Right? I usually drink it in the morning on an empty stomach, right? Right, because it's really good for your immune system and improving liver detox, gut healing, mental sharpness, and it's mildly adaptogenic, so it restores internal balance under stress, right? Make sure it's obviously a quality source, right? You can also technically cook with avocado oil, right? That's also fine too. But again, personally, I just cook in ghee. I feel like that's just or butter, grass-fed butter. It's just the most convenient option I'd give you, right? There's so many oils, bro. So many oils, right? So many oils that you can use, and it's just like, man, I highly recommend you guys just it's super, super important that you guys you know keep things simple. Obviously, I'm like explaining this stuff just so you have options, right? And you can take this one, this one, this one, this one, right? And then you can experiment with it a little bit in the beginning. But like I said, man, your diet has to stay consistent. Your diet has to stay consistent, right? For the most part, right? For the most part, it has to stay the same, right? But yeah. Now I know I hit on a lot of oils from previously, right? Like I said, you guys should really, because most of your food is going to be probably cooked in some kind of oil, right? It's very important to really consider what oil you're going to be at least cooking with. But not just cooking, but you can even oil on your skin and stuff like that as well, which is also a form of recovery, right? One thing I've been actually experimenting with, and I've done a lot of experimentation with, is what is it called? Camel hump fat. This is actually, I guess, slightly cheaper than beef tallow, depending on where you get the beef tallow from, and it has certain vitamins more than beef tallow in certain regards, right? It's um, it's also very extremely stable, so like has a higher cooking point, right, compared to like other oils, like olive oil, for example, right? And it fuels something about it. It fuels long endurance, mental clarity, and heat adaptation. Obviously, right? Right. You can um you can pretty much cook it. I've cooked fries. I posted about it like previously. But I actually cooked like basically French fries with camel hump fat, right? So again, and it's actually very affordable, right? Compared to like again, it depends on where you get the beef tallow from and all that, right? Right. It's also a halal option for people that want that as well, right? And there's so many oils when it comes to it, right? That is something you guys really need to consider, right? Now, I'm about to hit on something called supplementation. And obviously, most of you should be eating, natural whole foods for the most part, right? But supplementing further actually helps a lot. You know what I mean? Because one thing you guys have to really make sure is that it's clean, it's natural, it doesn't have any artificial synthetic ingredients that are toxic for you. Like, for example, sucralose, dextrose, red 40, blue 6, yeah, all those artificial stuff, right? Avoid that stuff as much as possible. And unfortunately, a lot of whey proteins have that. So don't get whey protein like that. There's a lot of whey proteins that are like grass fed, 100% grass fed, right? And have really clean ingredients, right? And again, if you want all that information, I have it all in my program, right? BioHacking for MMA, right? It's very, and I basically list out like the best one and like the most affordable one, depending on what you guys want, right? And again, there's so many like supplements. What I personally like to take is whey protein, because it's a very fast digesting one, and it absorbs it in your body within like 30 to 40 minutes, give or take. Right. There's also cod liver oil, right? Again, you have to make sure it's a wild caught and organic. Right. Now again, there's also bone broth. This can actually be taken, especially if you have a lot of joint pain and just joint pain, tendon pain, all that. Bone broth is really good. If you don't feel like making bone broth all the time, you can take. There is bone broth protein that you can get protein powder. Right, that's actually a very good thing. And again, I have all this in the program. So creatine. I'm gonna be experimenting with creatine very soon enough. Right, right. But like the whole point is that you guys really need to get over the idea of calories in, calories out. Right? Like the whole thing with calories is kind of a psyop. I'm not saying calories don't matter whatsoever, but it's more so dependent on your goals and how to work around them. Right? This is only like it's like very low level thinking, calories in, calories out. Right? If you're really gonna be, like I said earlier, like it's so illogical that you think 100 calories of like let's say an apple or raw honey versus 100 calories of chips, and you think that or hot Cheetos, right? And you think that's the same exact thing. You're absolutely delusional, right? So again, if you want to know about supplementation, I have that all in the program, right? So it's very detailed, right? And I even tell you where you guys can get it. Again, everything that I mentioned in that program. I'm not sponsored by any of these, right? Right. I'm not sponsored by them, so it's like legit, and it's the ones that I personally take, right? So it's like you know I wouldn't tell you to take something that I don't personally take, right? And another thing you guys really need to consider is oh yeah, one more thing actually I just remembered for and yeah, the thing with all this is that keep your diet simple. Right? I know I've stated a lot of stuff, right? Hopefully everything I've said has made sense to you, right? And the program that I have is a lot more catered towards MMA fighters and martial artists. So I highly recommend you guys join, right? Something that I listed every little detail that you can, every little basically autistic detail that you think of, I've listed it in there, right? And man, like you guys really like diet. I feel like is the most lacked thing in MMA. Everyone has like a decent workout routine and training routine. The diet routine, especially with, and again, I don't want to mention names of people. I really don't like doing that. But like so there's some of these so-called MMA nutritionists, and I'll like listen to their advice, and they say the most garbage shit, and it'll be like, oh, and again, like I said, I really don't like naming names. The only reason I'm doing this is because he's coming to my mind. Fucking George Lockhart. You know what I mean? With all due respect, I remember I saw like a video of his. It was a couple years back, and he said some bullshit like, "Oh, before you trade, take some gummy bears, right, and eat that shit because like the sugar spike and so-called carbs is like good for you. It'll give you energy." What he also forgot to mention is that these fucking gummy bears have red 40, sucralose, a lot of time dextrose, other synthetics to shit. That's gonna actually fuck you up in the long run, right? So why would you recommend gummy bears when there's raw honey? When there's raw honey, right? There's also other things you can do, but raw honey is like a really good staple, right? Specifically, Manuka raw honey, right? That's like the best. But if you don't have that, raw honey, regular raw honey is good enough. So my point is, these MMA nutritionists, unfortunately, will recommend synthetic bullshit, and this is actually very detrimental in the long run for fighters. And it's not even that effective, right? Because again, your body can't absorb a lot of these synthetic stuff, right? Like me, I'm not the type of person that's going to sugarcoat anything, right? You can take it as it is, right? The world is already lying to us enough. Why should I be another person that just lies to you, right? And again, it's not easy, but this is what the life demands, right? And you don't have to be built different for this stuff, right? The diet thing, the more simple you keep it, the easier it is to follow, right? I pretty much eat the same stuff every day, right? On the weekends, I'll change it up and stuff like that. Like I've said, really, I really highly want you guys to take this shit seriously because no one's gonna take it for you, right? I can't eat the food for you, and I can't, you know, make you not eat junk food or whatever. But if you keep this stuff simple, right? And I've had other videos as well. Watch those videos and join the program because and that stuff there's a lot more detail, right? All your confusions will be clarified in that, especially. But keep it basic. Keep your diet very simple and easy to follow, right? If you eat the same stuff, especially during the weekdays, it builds a compound interest, right? Like a compound effect, right? And the great thing about all this stuff, bro, is that you guys really need to lock in because just like working out, like I'll use the analogy of working out. You don't change your workout routine, right? Right? You keep the same workout routine for like a good like a month or two, right? Before you even think about changing it, right? So why wouldn't you do the same with food? Before you decide to add in this thing and add in this thing or take away this thing, keep the same thing and then make little changes here and there, right? So for example, um, let's say I'm gonna be eating like four eggs, right? Let's say scrambled eggs, for example, right? Just keep it simple with some sourdough bread and apple, banana, and 7 dates. Actually, funny though, that's exactly what I eat for the most part. And then let's say, okay, you know what? I don't really want to eat bananas anymore. I feel like avocados are better. So like, I'll follow the banana thing for like a month, and then I feel like okay, then I'll switch it up. I'll replace the banana with avocados, right? And I'll see how my body feels. If I feel like this is better, then I'll keep it up for a month. If it doesn't, then I'll switch back to the banana, or I'll change it to something else, right? Maybe pomegranates or something, right? But hopefully that really like I really guys want you guys to like you don't have to blindly follow everything I do, right? But again, be sensible. Don't just question me. Question those fat doctors you listen to as well, right? Don't be idiotic. But yeah, I mean, man, I'm gonna be keep these videos coming up. I know I took a little bit longer to release this one because again, I wanted this to be detailed, but hopefully, for you guys, all this stuff makes sense. Hopefully, you guys really hone in because your diet is very much what matters here, right? Again, I'm gonna be coming up with more videos, right? Coming soon as well, right? But if you haven't already, like and subscribe to this channel and turn on that post notification. And for the love of God, you know what I mean? If you want every little detail, join the program. But until next time, man, peace.